Yeah, I've got a Windows mixed reality device. I've got a Quest, a Rift, a Pico, every VR headset, but I don't have the Vive. So I think it's similar to Windows mixed reality, though.
Okay.
Hi, Roland.
Hey there, how you doing?
Good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thanks for inviting me back, Thomas. It's nice to see everyone.
Yeah, thank you for coming. We've been enjoying using hubs. We're gonna have another one in 2 weeks too in the European time zone. So we're trying to expand this format. And for me, it'll be nighttime in Japan. It's morning,
It's
right?
really nice to see familiar, like not faces, but familiar names and know who a bunch of people are in the room too, seeing as, you know, it's very isolating this point in time. So
Yeah.
It is my avatar.
Yeah, Roland, your avatar is quite cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's a Ready Player Me avatar that was the whole 3D.
Actually, I'm going to put mine on as well, so you folks know a little bit more like what I look like, although it's still a very generous interpretation.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm gonna build one for myself.
This is not the product hunt version, right? Which one is that?
No, this one's readyplayer.me.
Okay.
So that's the link to create one. It's not a Mozilla product. It's like a company called UofT that has made them. And so it's like automated based on your photo. Just so you know too, like we did inquire as to what their like data policies are for uploading images. And they said that unless you select the consent button to let them share your data, then they delete them from their server within a few days. However, I don't know for a fact. So anyways, they just recently launched this, so some of the things are pretty cool.
So when you they give you the GLB file after you upload the picture. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I have quite a limited assortment of options. So the glasses, do I wear glasses right now? No, right?
No,
you don't have glasses.
No glasses. No.
Yeah, let me see. I can switch to a glass version. Let me see. Yeah, okay.
That's pretty cool.
Here we go. You see? Did that
you
work?
look much smarter now.
Yeah, like a professor.
Yeah, but it's not the right glasses. They only have 2 swords, but I can't be picky.
You're
So for folks joining, we're gonna get started in a few minutes. But if you had any questions or need help getting your experience in Hub set up, let us know in the chat or through talking. But we're gonna get that presentation started in just a few minutes.
I switched back to my old avatar because I find it's easier to see when people are speaking when they're when they have the bobblehead on.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it doesn't have that. That's pretty cool though. I want to try to make mine.
Yeah, those ones are really great, especially if you're close enough that you can see the person's mouth moving. But when you get further away, it's a bit hard. I've been vouching for. I'd like there to be like an icon or like some sort of light above you as you speak to make it easier to see when people are talking from far away.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's right.
Oh, Elgin, I remember there was someone that wanted to do a research or like a questionnaire with me or something from Mozilla, right?
Oh yeah, did they ever reach out to you?
I have to go back. I haven't had the chance to really dig deep, but if it's in my emails, you can tell them I didn't ignore their emails. I
Okay.
just was on the plan. But
I'm not sure if they've moved forward with emailing people yet. I know that they were looking to, but I don't know. I sent them the contact information, I think like 10 days ago or something like that, but I know that it's moving a little slowly. So thank you for mentioning that.
No, it's on my radar. I don't forget.
Thank you for mentioning that. Are you teaching again this semester?
There's no summer semester for the SVA class, but I actually wanted to build out a expo of all the work that the students did, and I started with Spoke, but I ran out of polygon counts, so I have been struggling with that quite a lot. So I might have to reach out to you at some point, figure out how to convert models and bring them into Spoke in a scale, because there's like 16 different models I want to bring in there, and there's some kind of error, but yeah, it's some bug stuff.
Gotcha. I saw in the chat that someone was having some audio issues. Are they still continuing? You can feel free to chat back.
Hey Dylan, how are you doing?
Hey, pretty
Hey,
good.
Thomas, a quick question.
Yes. Yes.
For the video, I have a reference in my
Thank you.
slides,
Yeah,
but
it's as close as
how
it
would that
gets,
play
you know.
after I present? Do you
Yeah.
play that video? How did that-
Yeah. So what we're gonna do is hide your slides or take them out of the room after you get through them, and then the video's right behind it, and then we can just click on it and press play. Like you can trigger the video. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So welcome everyone. I think I'm gonna invite Elgin from Mozilla Hubs to come up and sort of kick off this Accessibility VR meeting today, and just give you some information about what Mozilla Hubs has been doing and some tips on enjoying this meetup. Thank you. Thanks.
So I'm hearing some feedback here that the sound is a little muffled for some folks in here. This could be caused by the room itself. It's a little bit high quality. Plus, there's quite a few people in this space. So Thomas, if you wanted to, I know it's really cozy in this room, but if you wanted to switch to another more empty environment, it might be a little bit more performant, but otherwise I think people can also watch from YouTube as well, correct?
Yes, we do have a YouTube live stream of the event, which I can put into the chat.
Yeah, maybe you could do that, because the sound is good for me, but on lower end devices, or lower powered rather, so like mobile phones, for example, the audio for sure might end up a little bit choppy in here, just because this room itself is quite high detailed. Anyways, I'll just give a very quick introduction. My name is Elgin. I'm the community manager for Hubs, and I just wanted to express on behalf of my whole team how excited we are that you folks are in this space, trying it out and giving us really amazing feedback. I know that Thomas, as well as a number of other people in the room, have given us a lot of feedback about things that we can improve inside of Hubs. And this is really, really valuable information. That's a really good tip. I'll just mention that now. If you point your cursor at me or whoever's speaking and press the space bar, a volume button will appear above my head. And so you can increase that, and that only increases it for your computer, so you don't have to worry about if you turn someone down really quiet. They'll still be, they can still be heard by the other people in the space. So yeah, if you point your cursor at me and press spacebar, you should get volume controls. But yeah, the feedback that your community has given us has been super valuable. We've incorporated a number of things earlier this month, and we're still working through the backlog of other sort of improvements that can be made to make it easier for people with screen readers, for example, to access the space. We have had a really wild month in the last month with all this COVID stuff, and we've had a lot of people using the platform. So we haven't been able to make as much headway on the accessibility things as we would like, but the project manager is prioritizing accessibility things in the next little while. And we're also working with some other people to potentially host more accessibility events and hubs. So we definitely really appreciate your feedback, and thank you so much for giving us all of that. One of the things that's kind of fun that we have incorporated that I just found out about today is now when you press the numbers 1 through 7, it brings up emojis in front of you. So that used to be only accessible by pressing space and then finding them at the bottom of your screen and then pressing the emoji, but now you can get a shortcut using numbers 1 through 7 on your keyboard. So that is all that I have to say. Thomas, is there anything else that you'd like me to introduce or talk about the platform at all?
Maybe just one more time the how to do the sound controls on
Yeah,
people.
for sure. For sure. So just to reiterate too, in case the sound is too quiet coming from someone, you can just point your cursor at that person and press either the space bar or the tab key also works. And then above their head, there'll be a plus and a minus, which will control their volume. And so you can turn up the audio that way. If you find that the audio is a little choppy, this is also being live streamed to YouTube, so you can watch it from there. And the audio quality might be a little bit better if you're on a lower powered device.
Great. Does anyone else here have any questions for Elgin? It's really great to have you here today. So if anyone does have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat or turn your mic on.
What is the purpose of the invite button? I'm sorry.
Oh, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
What's the purpose for the invite button?
Oh, at the top of the screen?
Yes.
Oh, that's so that you can invite other people to join you in the space. So I believe if you push it, there should be a code that you can send to people if you want to invite your friends into the space.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'll hang out. I've got to do some other things. We're just like being bombarded with a lot of requests and stuff, but I'm going to kind of listen in and stuff. And so if you have questions a little bit later on in the meetup, feel free to ping me and let me know. But I'll just go stand in the back, and I just want to hand the virtual microphone back over to Thomas and our presenter today.
Thank you, Elgin. All right. So
Thank you.
thank you for that intro. I again want to say we didn't put this into our invite today, but today is the Global Accessibility Awareness Day. So my name is Thomas Logan, and I'm the organizer of this event, and definitely excited that today is Global Accessibility Awareness Day and that we're able to do this event inside of Mozilla Hubs. So as you can see, for the events that we host on this platform, we have captions being displayed at the bottom of the screen. Those are actually provided by a company called White Coat Captioning. And we, every time we host an event, we want to have these captions available to make sure that, you know, people that are deaf or hard of hearing, or people maybe that English is a second language, can follow along with the presentation. We also stream this presentation to YouTube, which was also mentioned. And so we acknowledge Jolly McPhee from the Internet Society of New York for being able to set that up and have that available. And so this is something that for accessibility also we believe is a great inclusive piece is that people can join or watch just from a live stream URL if they're not able to come into the event itself. And finally, you know, the reason why we are hosting this Accessibility VR Meetup, we really want to learn from all people, but especially people with disabilities, the features or what could be done better to make social VR inclusive and available. So that was really cool today to see from Elgin the ability to do the emojis right from the keyboard. That's been something that in a lot of other social VR platforms we've not seen a way for people to participate or use those emoji responses, which is pretty popular topic in social VR. So that's really cool that Hubs has that. And I'll put a typo 1, and I think that's clapping for that to show that, but that's really great to see them making progress on accessibility. With that being said, I'm really excited to introduce our presenter tonight, Sam Qorbani, and on a really great topic of being inclusive for people with mobility impairments to be able to fully participate in these new worlds. So hand it over to you, Sam. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you all to be here today. This is my first time presenting in virtual space. So seems from up here, it seems that like an out-of-body experience, and I think it's very funny feeling. I didn't want to turn today's presentation to a full academic one. It's going to be a bit boring, so I'm trying to kind of find another angle to it, but I still show you what I've been learning in the last couple of years about VR. I'm a third-year PhD student at Carleton University in Canada, and VR in STEM education as the broad category is my research topic, focusing on safety procedure in a chemistry lab as an example. I'm hoping to pursue accessibility and inclusiveness to explore by my research, making VR educational content and training available for remote northern communities of Canada in VR. My supervisor, Dr. Arya, is negotiating some partnership in this regard. Today, I'll be talking about my recent experiment that came out of a school course on VR. I took this course last term, and it involves exploring interactions in VR. By VR, I'm specifically talking about real-time immersive VR or IVR, and not 360-degree videos that we normally see. Okay, just I'm curious, how many here are involved in teaching VR? Any person, any audience member? What about developers or designers? Oh, I can see one hand.
I'm a developer. I don't know how to raise my hand.
Right, I just saw that. Thank you. Any designer, content designer in VR? Right, same. Okay, so I'm hoping that I can bring something or give, have something for everyone. Thank you. Yeah, I can see. Nice. Designer, UX, dev, design. Okay, there's designer student. Great, thank you. Okay. How I structured today's presentation around these couple of questions. What was done for this particular topic? Disclaimer, I couldn't do a full user study due to the COVID restrictions, but we are planning to do it remotely and send APK probably for people who have headset and do that user testing. Then I'll talk about why I'm doing this particular project and then how it is relevant. As a part of the course's recommended reading, I came across this paper called The Eyes Don't Have It, an empirical comparison of head-based and eye-based selection in virtual reality by Yuan Qian and Dr. Robert J. Theater, who happened to be my professor for this VR course. The device used in that study was a FOVE headset with eye tracking to conduct an experiment. The result indicated that eye-only selection offered the worst performance in terms of error rate, selection times, and throughput, while head-only selection offered significantly better performance. They used Fitts law and ISO 9241-9 standard to do the experiment. And I quote, the author said, "We found that head-only selection offered the fastest selection times and the best accuracy." I will explain what referred to selection time and whatnot. Okay, based on that paper, it kind of triggered my interest. So my fellow PhD student, Malik El-Kouzi, and myself, I think Malik is here somewhere, maybe, I'm not sure, he was supposed. Anyway, we took an interest to explore the next step of the aforementioned study and see if there is a practical application for the head-based selection. What we did, we added a docking task to it as well. So in general, the task include 3 sections: selecting, dragging, and dropping. Over the course of developing this study, it became more of a comparison between 3 types of interaction in immersive VR. The first one that you see on the slide is head-based, means the raycast shoots from the headset, and the controller is only for triggering, means locking and unlocking the object. Second one is controller-based. One controller is just for trigger, the other one is just for shooting the raycast and dragging and dropping the object. And then the third one is hand-based. That is still a work in progress because it later changed, and we wanted to still have the controller on one hand and just use the other hand for using the raycast to drag and drop the object. Just I have to here mention the limitation of using raycast in this way is that it likes a very long stick that you kind of a long pole that you stick an object at the end of it. So as you can imagine, it can't. It's not as flexible. It wouldn't bend. You can rotate it, but it wouldn't bend. So that's the limitation of using raycast. The next topic I'm going to talk is why I'm doing it, specifically exploring this area. Motivation is a big part of what we do, isn't it? For me, the journey began in 2005 when my wife and I moved to Canada. Starting over as an immigrant in a new country is not always easy. Canada embraced and accepted us as skilled workers. Still, we had to start from scratch, right? Our humble beginning was like many other immigrants. My wife, educated in applied mathematics, found a job in a store as a cashier, and my IT background landed me a job in a computer repair shop. Here is where my story took a turn. A small misunderstanding about the repair of a computer with a customer created a strong friendship between me and the customer we know from now on as John. I always say we had many firsts, John and I and my wife, pun intended. The first time I rode an ATV in a crazy hillside of around north of Toronto, or riding a large inner tube down a snow-covered hill in -20-degree temperature, or traveling to beautiful PEI, Prince Edward Island, to his cottage, to the deep sea fishing, where my wife and I thought we were gonna die due to the motion sickness, and John was laughing at us. Not to mention the first time eating fudge during our trip to Niagara Falls. I was high on sugar for hours like a 5-year-old kid. Even got us our first cat, beautiful Sheila, is still with us after 14, 15 years. He also taught my wife kayaking or canoeing. I really don't know the difference and don't care, as I'm not an outdoorsy person. This is a picture of my wife that took from him during one of their air quote adventure on the Grand River. I even had my first ER visit in Canada with John, and trust me, there is a funny story behind it. Ask me about it at the end if you are interested to hear. By the way, I should give a shout out to our healthcare professionals and frontline workers dealing with the pandemic situation now. Before I forget, John is also an excellent handyman. With some limited help, he has built this shed and the whole ramp at his house. The only thing I've ever built was a bathroom stool, and it fell apart when I sat on it. John for sure doesn't make me look good in front of my wife when it comes to building stuff. I can go forever about what John can do. But why I'm telling you all this? Well, because John has a rare progressive disease that impacts his health. It changes the shape of his bones, especially fingers and toes. Every few years, he has to go through a surgery to reshape them. I don't want to be more graphic about it, but it's not easy, as you can imagine. Good thing is, John still can walk with a little, with the help of a cane, but that possibility is decreasing day by day. So he mostly uses electric scooter to get around. Beside everyday challenges he is facing around the physical world, such as stairs with no ramps or accessibility door buttons that are out of reach, he has to deal with digital challenges as well. John has always been a good computer gamer, but until now he couldn't use a VR because of the interaction devices, the input devices. As you know, the forms of input devices in VR is just one example of such digital challenges he and probably many other users face. So I just explained this to say that I don't consider John as a person with disability. I believe he is a person with different abilities. Do you remember this big red button I showed you a few slides back? It's actually a mouse click that he uses along with a joystick to use his computer. I didn't do a background research about it to know who first came up with this design, but I can bet it must have been a long time after the regular mouse we use every day was designed and produced. Like always, the norm seems to be, let's design for normal and able-bodied people, and people with special needs will adapt. So here are a few things that inspire me. It's the year 2020, and as predicted by researchers in 2017, the state of the art of technology in VR is already out of date today. It was the same year when CEO of the UofT game engine said that in order for AR, VR, and XR to become an industry, three components should come together. One, it should be a mobile. Two, the headset should be under $1,000. And the third part is VR content. Where we are today with VR is just the beginning. As we are exploring more and as technology gets better, faster, and smaller, the size of headset will reduce, and it will be less costly. What we can achieve in terms of application and content is limitless. The VR technology we see today is the result of decades of research, development, and advancement. Hopefully, we can include a wider range of users in the next phase. Some of the benefits of AR, VR mentioned in literature include the immersion, interactivity, multisensory, and sense of presence are amongst the characteristics of VR technology often cited as the strongest features of the technology when compared to other forms of media. AR, VR are showing promises and positive impacts on learning process, providing possibility for active learning and increasing user engagement. and improving spatial skills. The evidence also suggests that immersion in immersive VR increases learning effectiveness, engagement, and learning attitude. The negative outcomes, such as motion sickness, is also highlighted in the literature. Many factors need to be considered in both design of hardware and software applications in VR. While some of the devices currently designed for VR may not be adequately effective for certain group of users, who am I to say that it's a bad design? No designers intentionally design a bad product or app or service. The external and internal forces can impact the design, and hey, there's always a deadline to be met. I guess I'm trying to say that the design decisions need to go beyond what is now. We can be more considerate, maybe invest a little more initially to include people with different abilities to be able to use the product and application we make. May not always be possible, but we can and should try harder. I just want to bring a bit of awareness that we, as business owners, designers, developers, everyone who is involved should and could do better in terms of building and designing for accessibility and inclusiveness. And here are some of the timeless design principles applicable to any design from my favorite author. It's a self-explanatory. Maybe I can talk about how I use them in another session. And the last, and again, the last word from experience, that is where the video I will play. I'll show you, sorry. Yeah, the last word from experience. If you are developing for mobile immersive VR, be mindful that the first VR experience is extremely important, especially if they are first-time users, as a good or bad impression can form their opinion about IVR. If bad, they may never try it again. So here are a few technical tips. Know the specification and limitation of the platform you are designing for or developing for. Be aware that cyber sickness is real. Use analytics in game engine to achieve the best and optimum frame rate and maintain it. Oculus Quest, for example, it's 72 frames per second, means each frame has to be rendered in 13.13 milliseconds. I got away with 17 to 24, but be very careful. Use compression, use mesh combine, and every trick possible to avoid latency. Avoid using large textures. Immersion in IVR can occur despite of unrealistic environment, and that is based on the studies. So you might get away with having a simple solid color instead of a very detailed texture on your 3D objects. Avoid using shadows and reflective materials and textures. And finally, fast-moving objects, scenes, fast head movement can cause nausea for some users. Use alternative methods. Walking is always preferred in VR, but may not be possible. Don't make decisions for users where the speed changes violently. There are many lists of best practices around VR, but you have to search and learn what works best in your scenarios. At the end, I have a video of the experiment we did design in Unity just to show you how that head selection and dragging and docking task works. So I'm hoping we can play that one, Thomas.
Do you want to do that one now? Okay, let me
yeah, yes.
Sure. All right, let me move it just slightly forward. This is our first time trying a video in here, guys, so this is exciting. Hold on. might have to hide this.
Oh, how do we
Yeah, we'll
hide
move it back and
okay.
then bring it back. Yeah. There you go.
Okay, great. So once the user is in this VR space, what they see is this 3 buttons and this menu explaining what they have to do. I just play the video and explain over it. So what happens now, they are actually interacting. That is the head tracking now happening, the gaze, where they look, that but once they are in the scene, they read a short description of what they are supposed to do. And then this, with this crosshair, they can point to that object and then trigger on the left controller, move their head and drop it. So that's an academic test, right? It doesn't really, it's not an application that of sort, but then we record the time from the time they picked an object and the time that they dropped it. And then pressing a B button takes them back to this menu. And this time, this is what all done by controller, and both trigger and raycasting are on one device, but we have to separate them. Again, we record the time they take for them to select and drop the object. And the last one, which is the work in progress, is actually raycasting by the hand. This version I have on this video isn't showing it in action, but basically it's the same task happen. They have to select an object and drag and drop it to the target area. It's purely done for academic purpose to be able to measure the error rate and performance and all those fun stuff. That was my presentation. Thank you very much. If you have any question, I'm ready to answer.
Thank you very much, Sam. I did want to let everyone know, because this is our first time doing a video in the room, that you basically, for future reference, at the top right of Mozilla Hub's section, there's a number of objects, or right now on my screen, it shows there's 5 objects, and you can actually hover over the YouTube video itself to get that more full screen in your view. You can also do that for presentations. But I thought the video worked really well, so I really appreciate that. All right, so let's.
Thank you.
Great. So I guess Sam, I'll start off with the first question. But what were the findings of doing those 3 different interaction methods? What was?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good question. Again, our user study is underway. We haven't completed it, but I've done some testing with what is called simulation testing. I did, but let me come down. Yeah, I definitely, for my out of interest, I sent it to John and I tested. He on the first interaction type, means the gaze one or the head one. For the first attempt, he did it in about 12 seconds, and in the second attempt, he did it in 4 seconds. But we are expecting to increase, because we have to have a special ethic applications for this group of users, right? So it's still work in progress. But for the other one, we expect that head tracking interaction to be the faster and more accurate one compared to others. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. And is the timing of like that number of seconds, what's the like optimal amount of time, or is that good? Like, is that 4 to 5 seconds? Seems like a good amount of time.
Yeah, that is good for that number of. Again, there isn't much to compare with, right? These are all new. So my goal is to find this and you know, make it a kind of practical way of interacting. Imagine, so far, due to this, because there wasn't any one thing I didn't explain is that the controller trigger that I talked about, John cannot hold it in his hand. So I created or printed a docking station, and I put this Oculus Quest controller on it. So all he did was pressing it, right? So to kind of make the trigger action. So it just opened a way for him to interact with in VR. And then, of course, he quickly learned that, it was fast. Again, I don't have much to compare it with. So we are hoping to test few other, ways and see what it is.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
If anyone has a question, please you can go off of mute or type it into the chat.
So in your testing, is all your testing done with the mobile device only of Quest?
Yes. Yes.
Was it? Oh, excuse my ignorance if I don't know, but is there a reason for that?
We wanted to make it mobile friendly. I think the future of VR headset is mobile. So there's no, for this one, I just wanted to kind of make it more available on the cheaper small device. As Oculus Go is, the cheapest one. So I wanted to test on a platform that doesn't need an expensive computer and Oculus Rift and cables and all those.
Okay.
Just for the accessibility purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, and cost.
Yes, of course.
Hi, I wanted to ask whether you've tried to use some kind of head-based gesture as a trigger action, for instance, nodding.
For instance, something. Sorry, I didn't catch
Nodding.
it completely.
A nodding,
Yes.
a nodding action to kind of confirm something.
We talked about it, but defining that kind of gestures is a bit of challenge. We use Unity, but we use the Oculus integration package SDK. So it has to be custom-made gestures. We haven't explored it yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Could you talk a little bit again about, or maybe just go back over what you have to do to the Oculus Quest controller itself to make it easier to use for John, or what the change to the hand controller is?
Sure. I don't have a picture of it here, but as you know, the Oculus Quest controller, it has a small stem, and you have to hold it around your hand, hold it in your hand, and then there are the joystick under your thumb, and then there are a few buttons, right? So the way John's fingers kind of are bent, it can't hold it. So what I had to do, I printed a piece that works as a resting. You can rest your hand on that, and then this controller sits into a hole that I printed out in that piece, and then it works like the big red button I just showed you how he uses as a mouse click. So the controller sits on this docking station, and he puts his hand on top of it and just press it on the top. So the action, the trigger works to lock and unlock, And to me, my idea came from game design a while ago, that one button game. So I was thinking, what if I create a interaction type that only needs one click, pressing one button, so that he can use VR. So that was the 3D printed piece. It's basically a box with a hole in it so that the controller sits inside, and you can place it on the top of the table.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
This was a really good presentation. Thank you for sharing it. I was wondering kind of what are your next steps in your research that you're looking at doing?
Yes, great question. My professor expects me to complete this with a full user study, and and then we are also working with getting ethics application going on to kind of to me, I don't like these brands, but in the ethics community, they call it a vulnerability group or something. So there has to be a special ethics application and whatnot, which takes 3-4 months to complete. But to me, as I showed you, John is more than capable. So all I need is a permission to, bring similar, people with similar physical difficulties to test this. On maybe a better application like actual game or some sort of more meaningful application. Again, this task that you have seen here, selection and dragging and dropping, is just purely for academic purpose. But I'm envisioning making even designing a game of sorts to, test or make application. It would be first VR game for John if I make it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the hand tracking use case, and I guess I imagine like often with the hand tracking cases, applications might record or try to standardize a certain gesture recognition to say, okay, when we see the hands or fingers doing this particular movement, it translates to this action. So did you have ideas around, for example, for John's hand interactions for doing certain types of gestures, or is there an idea of like what's a good gesture, what's a bad?
Yes. Again, in case of John, it would be very difficult because the limited movement of his hand, fingers. But I don't see any problem of exploring that area. Definitely, there is application for it. I now, when you mentioning it, I can see possibilities. Definitely, there's a way to design a special gestures and certain presets that yeah, there's with recent update of Oculus Quest, I hear there are some more possibility in this regard.
Great.
I haven't explored it yet.
This is a great presentation. I appreciate it. Could you
Thank you.
Could you talk more about the head gaze function and the coding of it and how you did that?
Sure. It wasn't really difficult. All you do define a raycast, right? And then I can share you more technical details. But once you do that one, there is a you can define a start or a source area, and then the second object would be your dropping target area, and
Okay.
you write few lines of codes and connect them together. I can definitely share your. Our idea is to put them on GitHub and share with public once we publish it.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
But yeah, definitely. But hit me with message or email if you are interested. I can definitely share with you.
Thank you.
No
And
problem.
you're going to post your email someplace, or did I miss it?
Yes, I think Thomas on my. Let me share with everyone here. I think, hold on.
Yeah, you can put it in the chat if that's all right with you,
Yeah.
or your Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also from
Again, I
our
didn't
meetup
want to
page, you
really.
should be able to get contact.
Sorry. Again, I mentioned that I didn't want to really get into technical details, which it would be boring, I can answer your questions on direct email.
Thank you. That'd be awesome.
No problem.
All right, so I think let's all give a hand to Sam. Thank you so much, Sam, for your presentation today and for enlightening us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I'm gonna do my emoji here. So
Thank you,
use
everyone.
my keyboard shortcut. Yeah, so thanks everyone for coming. We're gonna keep this space. Well, this space will always stay open, but we'll be hanging around to socialize, and you can walk up to folks and get to know them. We want to say thank you again to White Coat Captioning for the captions today. We'll be completing the captioned part of our stream, and we will also say thank you to Jolly McPhee again from the Internet Society of New York for our live stream. And as was asked in the chat, all of our talks are archived on the YouTube channel. So we're going to start having a second monthly meetup that's more aimed for European time zone. And if that time zone doesn't work well for you, but you want to see the presentations that we're having, you can always go to our YouTube channel to get that. So again, I'm Thomas Logan, and happy Global Accessibility Awareness Day. And let's hang out and socialize for a little while. Thank you, everyone.